I'm going to get straight to the point. I really don't like Ultimate Spider-Man, and there isn't a whole lot more to say. My biggest problem with the series isn't that it's uncreative or too childish, but that we have taken such a big step back from the previous series, The Spectacular Spider-Man. In Spectacular Spider-Man, the writers adapted Spider-Man from the comics almost perfectly. Don't get me wrong, I do like differences from the comics, but when the writers take somewhat obscure stories from the comics and adapt them in their own way, you really start to understand how much they care about the fans and have so much respect for the source material. Spectacular Spider-Man got a lot of things right, and the characters were very interesting. When I was a kid I loved the show, and when I got older, it stayed with me and got even better, as I had a lot more respect for it. The stories were complex enough for adults and found a perfect balance between being too child-friendly and too adult. Sadly, due to legal problems, Spectacular Spider-Man was cancelled in its prime and only got 26 episodes. I have to admit that I was really excited for the new series. From the trailers, it looked a lot like the Ultimate Comics, which was an alternate reality where stories and characters were drastically changed. We were also getting J.K. Simmons back as J. Jonah Jameson. J.K. Simmons played the character perfectly in the movies, and when I say perfectly, I do mean perfectly. He was funny, and he seemed like he was pulled straight out of the comics.
Crazy scientist turns himself into some kind of a monster. 4 mechanical arms welded right onto his body. Guy named Otto Octavius winds up with 8 limbs. What are the odds? Hoffman!
Yeah?
What are we gonna call this guy?
Dr. Octopus.
That's crap.
Science Squid?
Crap.
Doctor Strange.
That's pretty good. But it's taken. Wait, I got it. Dr. Octopus.
I like it.
Of course you do. Dr. Octopus. New villain in town. Doc Ock.
Genius.
What are you looking for, a raise? Get out.
Then when I watched the first episode, I realized that this was not going to be what I thought it was. Still, I rolled with it, but after about 10 episodes I started to realize how bad the show was. Most of the stories didn't go anywhere, and those that did just seemed like they were a filler until the season finale. The humor was mostly for kids, and Spider-Man breaks the fourth wall to the point of annoyance. Even when there is a rare serious moment, it is suddenly interrupted by comedy. I feel like the show would work better with Deadpool, a hero who breaks the fourth wall a lot, as the main character. Can you imagine how hilarious it would be to see him try to train a group of young heroes? The jokes would be much more welcome, and this was clearly shown to work in the episode Deadpool. The show really doesn't hold up well for an older audience, and it was clearly made for kids. However, I feel like the creators of the show don't give credit to younger audiences. When I was a kid, I really liked Spectacular Spider-Man, and that was clearly made for all ages. It honestly makes me feel sad to note that writers are going back to a time when cartoons are only meant for kids, as many people think, but cartoons can be enjoyable for all ages. But this just proves the point of the former. The characters are dull cardboard cutouts. Characters who had great personalities and depth have been replaced with generic stereotypes. In this show, Spider-Man has a team that he has to work with, which seems like an interesting premise, but is handled very poorly, as none of the characters seem like real people and make stupid decisions a lot. Spider-Man's character is a complete mess. The writers want him to be a shy, geeky science student like in the comics, but in this show it's really not believable. In the comics it was clearly shown that Peter was very timid, but when he became Spider-Man he could finally be himself and have fun. But in Ultimate Spider-Man he seems like he's constantly having fun. He has way too much confidence in school, and if you didn't already read the comics or watch the movies, then you would probably be confused about this aspect of the character. Throughout the series, he's supposed to learn responsibility, but every time he learns something, it's forgotten in the next episode and never mentioned again. Even J.K. Simmons as J. Jonah Jameson is poor. You never see him in person, and all he ever does is scream about Spider-Man in a loop on a giant screen. What a waste! I guess I have to talk about something good. Well, the animation is surprisingly well done, and is much better than Spectacular Spider-Man, but the problem with this is that it really doesn't fit the tone of the show. There are a couple of good episodes like Deadpool and Second Chance Hero, which have some pretty interesting stories, but they are few and far between. There were some great villains in Spectacular Spider-Man, like Green Goblin and Venom, who were given a lot of depth and were explored to a great extent. Venom, who was built up through Spectacular Spider-Man's first season and had some great motivation, is now a mindless monster with no plan whatsoever. Not to mention that they only built out his story arc over one episode. The show is a complete mess, and I am honestly shocked that the series is getting a third season, despite many fans complaining about it. It has gotten 2 spin-off shows, Avengers Assemble, which replaced a great Marvel show called Avengers Earth's Mightiest Heroes, and while it's not as bad as Ultimate Spider-Man, it is nothing compared to Earth's Mightiest Heroes. The other show is Hulk and the Agents of Smash, and no, I am not making that up. These writers have no respect for the fans or the source material. The only reason the show exists is to advertise the Marvel Cinematic Universe and to sell toys. I mean, why else would Spider-Man have a spider cycle?
To be continued.